Go. Hey everybody, how you doing? Good to have you here. Happy to be here. Let's jump into a little stuff. We're gonna be talking about boom. What is JavaScript in general? What is it versus Java? What is jQuery? What are all these words? Gonna make that simple for us, and then kind of jump into a few of them, a few of the nitty-gritty details called primitives right off the bat. So let's see here. First, let's talk about what the heck is JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language. Java is a programming language. Even though they both contain the word Java, which is an interesting and silly history as to why, which we won't go into now, but they both have the word. They don't really have anything to do with each other necessarily. They're two different programming languages. Coke and Pepsi or whatever. They're different. Let's see here. So what's JavaScript? It's a programming language used to make websites interactive. It's oftentimes called the programming language of the internet. It's one of the languages that's natively understood by your browser, like Chrome or Firefox or whatever you're using, and it is super popular. There are other ones which are super popular as well, and I'm not trying to advocate it as the best or anything like that. It's just super widely used, and so that's why we're studying it here today. So like HTML and CSS, you do not need to install anything in order to begin writing JavaScript or to see it run. You have it built right into your browser, and we're going to look at how the heck where that is. Yeah, in terms of what jQuery is what's called a library for JavaScript. It's a library. It's like a little addition. It's like something that it's all this special methods and abilities and functions that you kind of like plug into your JavaScript, and then boom, now you can do these new fantastic, wonderful, and super things. And we're going to be using portions of the jQuery library, but by no means its whole library. It's vast, but we're going to use it to be able to communicate our JavaScript, or like logic language, with our HTML and our CSS, and be able to like make things on the page do stuff based on logic that we write. If that makes sense. Okay, so cool. I hope that gives like a quick overview here. And again, like I want to say, like a lot of the things that we're studying, there can be full classes just on this. Like people will take a full class on just JavaScript, work on it for years to become an expert. So like, don't be too intimidated. Like you don't have to become an expert. We're going to learn what we need along the way. Any of these little avenues, I invite you to like take interest and maybe like dive down the rabbit hole in one thing or another. If you find something new in jQuery, you're like way into it, get way into JavaScript, maybe you like really want to like work on that cursorily, and then also really work on your CSS and the HTML that we started last unit. Like, this is about finding what your interest is within programming and looking into this like further deeper stuff. So in that vein, like I always invite in like, part of being a programmer is like looking into the multiple resources. Developers are all over the web. They put all kinds of free and great information out there, and because our world is like always changing, so like keeping up on things and like reading online documentation is really the way to go. Like less and less is it like physical books or like these manuscripts, although like I do love my books, not trying to talk down, but like the online documentation, like some of which is provided here. Mozilla Developer Network, MDM, they also make Firefox, right? You got jQuery, the two great resources. Stack Overflow, I listen to their podcasts. These are great programmers. This is a site to find like solutions for JavaScript, and as we get into JavaScript, you're going to be finding Stack Overflow at the top of almost every like Google search that you put in, as well as like W3 Schools, which we brought up last semester too, and they're such a great resource. So rad. Moving on and getting into some of the details. Let's see here. we're going to be talking about something right off the bat called primitives. Ha, primitives. Now, when we're talking about primitives, so in JavaScript, everything's either an object or a primitive. And without getting too deep into like what that means right now, we're just talking about like, what the heck is this the element? What is this thing we're talking about? Is it a number? Is it like some numbers can be added, subtracted, etc. You can do math with them. That's one type of primitive. Is it a string? String's just a fancy name for like, I don't know, a word, a set of words. Now that gets complicated because guess what? That can also be like a number. You know, I am 21 or just 21. Now this is a string because it has quotes around it. If it didn't have quotes, then it would be a number. You can't add this. You could add it if it was up here, and that's a little bit tricky, and sometimes that may get like a little bit one of the things that we need to look at in the future. But that's another type. You got words, symbols, that kind of stuff. String. It's just fancy word for like print, what you would print. See it in a newspaper or something. Boolean. That's a fancy word for just true or false. True or false. Sometimes we want things to be true or false, like the light bulb's on or off. You know what I mean? Um, Null is a type of primitive, and null just means nothing. And we don't need to get too deep into that. That'll come up sometimes. And then undefined, you'll see undefined come up during our errors and stuff probably. Don't worry about it. Undefined usually means like either we don't care or we made a mistake is usually what that means. But don't worry about that. The main things to take in here, boom, we got numbers. We have like strings, which are like, you know, things that could be written in a newspaper or whatever. And then true or false, and then some other weirdos. There's also symbol, never use, I don't know, we won't really be getting into symbol, but that is a thing. All right, I'm going to jump into arithmetic, and then you'll be able to practice. Yeah, well, so, boom, you're doing great, we're moving through. So now we're talking about JavaScript. How the heck do you even, like, run JavaScript, or do you use it? Like, where do I program that? Does that go on the code sandbox, or, like, what do we... And so like, so actually the most readily available place to run JavaScript is right here in your browser. And you can do that by opening up your JavaScript console. We had a lesson about earlier, but if you don't remember, that's all right. So just press Command Option J on a Mac or Control Shift J if you're on a PC, and it'll bring up a thing like this. Boom. Let's use mine. Yeah, there we go. And we clear it, and sometimes you probably see mine open just automatically. You know, I do a lot of work and stuff in it, so when I'm doing my lessons, sometimes maybe that's up. But here it is, and this actually is your JavaScript console, your JSConsole. If you have to toggle to it, check it out, because yours might be on the bottom, and that's okay, like down here, and it might be in like an elements mode or something. So switch to the console mode, and right here is where we can like, this is running JavaScript. This is where we can like actually like type some things in. For example, if I want to like do some basic math, guess what? You could do that. 1 plus 2, for example. And it gives you 3. Right off the bat. Check it out. Try doing a little bit of it yourself. Make sure that you can do it. You're gonna be checking, hey, and it gives you negative numbers and stuff. Boom. That's what we're talking about. You can do, so this is simplifying for those mathematicians out there, this simplifying expressions. That's what's going on. Does it know your order of operations? Yeah, it knows order of operations. Booyah. And so this is a good one. This is a good one to use if you just want a quick calculator. But this is running JavaScript. This is doing it in JavaScript. That's JavaScript. Now it gives you like, if you want, it's talking about some weirdos. Yeah, so boom. In terms of math, check out all of your math symbols. So all the normal math stuff works. Adding, subtracting, multiply. So, all right, check it out. If you haven't seen this before, 3 times in JavaScript is that asterisk, that like star, if you press Shift 8. Yeah. 3 times 4, for example, is 12. Boom. So that's your multiplication. You got your division is the /. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. Booyah. And then there's also, so it has those 4 classic ones, and then also it has a special one called modulo, which is actually like really cool, and it gives you like the remainder. So if you think about, okay, 12 divided by 5, does 12 divide evenly by 5? No, obviously. 12 divided by 5, well, you're going to get two fives gets you to 10, and then you have like two remainders. Yeah, that's modulo. So like 12, and it's the percentage sign. 12 modulo 5 gives you 2, because 12 divided by 5, two fives gets you to 10. It's the closest you can get with 2 left over. Booyah, that's modulo. It actually does come in handy at times when you might not at first suspect right now, but those are the 5 main ones: add, subtract, um, multiply, and then divide and modulo. And of course, it uses the classic parentheses and these kinds of things for um, order of operations. Yo, okay, fantastic. I will stop talking. We just rocked through the intro to like JavaScript. Hey, it's a language. You can run it in your browser, works in browsers, lets websites do things. You can use it to like even do math right there. It does math. So practice for a minute, play with it for a bit, and then, I don't know, jump in the next, maybe get a drink of water and jump into the next lesson. All right. See you later. Happy coding.